part is always terrifying. Like Zoom, I know, but Facebook Live, I just don't really do very often. So I'm always like, is it working now? Hey, it looks like we're live on Facebook. Woohoo! I don't know if anyone else has it up too who's in the Zoom meeting, but very excited. We're starting our CF Yogi open house, and I'm so excited to show everyone what we've been building in this online community for the past year or so. And this has been a dream that I've had for a while, to be able to bring people with cystic fibrosis into a space that's just for us, and learning from each other about kind of how we're managing this disease and how we're using yoga to help them do that. So my name is Katie Malik. I am the founder and executive director of CF Yogi. And I'm going to teach a yoga class for you today. So we are simulcasting right now. We're on Facebook Live. And we are also in Zoom, which is our video conference platform where we do our regular yoga classes that are private for people with cystic fibrosis. So I've got a couple co-pilots who are helping me out today on Zoom. Heather Brown is one of our teachers for CF Yogi. She is here. Chelsea Spruance, who is coming in the door, hopefully, as a teacher for us, if we can get all of our funding and everything squared away. And so we're excited to have some teachers waiting the wings who are ready to teach more. And we're excited to help spread the CF awareness today about what CF is, how yoga can help. So we've got a couple of polls. I'm going to launch them on Facebook Live. Chelsea, will you launch the CF awareness one for the Zoom room? So Facebook Live, you're going to see a poll right now coming out about just how much familiarity do you have with cystic fibrosis. 0, maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've heard stories about someone with CF, but you don't know anyone personally. And then the degree, oh my God, I live with this every day. So I would just love to find out how much familiarity you already have with cystic fibrosis so we can kind of tailor that to you. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the poll that we're sharing in Zoom right now. And I'm just going to give people a couple minutes to fit that out, to fill that out. Part of the reason that we want to know about this is that at the beginning of our yoga class, we are always kind of setting the context of what we're doing for the class in a given day. When we're open to just the CF community, the questions are going to be a lot more specific to different symptoms that people have with their cystic fibrosis. But today we're just kind of wanting to find out how much you already know about the disease. And then, Chelsea, what are some of the other questions that we have in the Zoom version?
We have how much familiarity do you have with cystic fibrosis? Which of these is not a symptom or complication of cystic fibrosis? And if you had CF, what advice would you rather hear from a friend? Knowing that there is no right or wrong answer. True or false, CF is contagious, and what color are your eyes?
Yes, so that question, what color are your eyes? I'm going to publish that one on Facebook Live, because that question about is CF contagious is something that people with CF hear a lot, because we cough a lot. We can seem visibly sick from the outside. You hear that nasty rattly cough and you're like, ew, you stay away from me. But the important thing to note is that CF is a genetic disease. It's inherited, and it's not something you can catch from someone else with cystic fibrosis. That said, one of the main factors of cystic fibrosis is the airways and the mucus that forms in our body. That mucus is unusually thick and sticky in our airways, and it makes a perfect habitat for bacteria. So bacteria that are totally harmless to your average human being can be really dangerous for people with cystic fibrosis. So that's why we need to make sure that we're taking precautions about keeping our distance and just really mindful about our contact with other people with cystic fibrosis, because we can share those infections with each other. So that's why this virtual studio space was a really revolutionary thing, because it gives us a way to safely engage with each other and grow these relationships in an online environment. So that question about eye color. Let's see some of our results from our poll. Chelsea, can you share those Zoom results? So let's see, how do I get through? There it is. So we actually have a lot of blue eyes in our respondents. And globally, the population that has blue eyes is only about 8%. A lot of white people, because there was, one person back thousands of years ago in Europe who had this genetic mutation that gave them blue eyes. But that's a recessive gene, and so in order to get blue eyes, both parents have to pass along that gene for blue eyes. If one parent has brown eyes, that is the dominant gene, and so that's what the child will have. You have to have both parents with that blue gene in order for the child to have blue eyes. And CF is the same way. It's a recessive gene, and so both carriers have to have that gene that creates cystic fibrosis in order for the child to have it. Now, unlike your eye color, it's a lot more rare. About 1 in 10 people in the United States is a carrier of the CF gene, which is more common than a lot of people think. But that means that about 1 in 10,000 people actually has cystic fibrosis in America. So there's about 30,000 people in the United States who have CF, estimated around 70,000 worldwide. So let's move on. Let's talk about yoga a little bit. So we can go ahead and close that CF awareness poll, and let's go on and talk about what yoga actually can do for people with CF. So let's go ahead and launch the yoga awareness poll. I'm going to ask those of you on Facebook Live, just have you done yoga before? Is this something that you have already experienced? Maybe just once or twice, or maybe you have a regular yoga practice and you're here to just find out how it benefits people in the CF community. If you practice yoga regularly and you don't have CF, you already know what a lot of the benefits are, both for the physical, self-care, as well as the state of mind, peace of mind that it brings to your life. So in our CF community, we have some things where yoga can be especially beneficial. So I'm going to launch one more final poll on the Facebook Live. I'm going to say, what focus do you think would be helpful for your practice today? Because that number one answer that we have on Facebook Live, that breath work, that is going to be really super critical for people with cystic fibrosis, because it's one of those few non-competitive, non-judgmental ways that we can get in touch with our body and with our breath. And since the breath is really at the root of everything that we're doing in yoga, it's a natural fit for people with cystic fibrosis to be able to just come into ourselves and raise that body awareness without the judgment or the expectation that it should be a certain way, but acknowledging what it is and actually delighting in what we can do rather than being worried about the things that we can't do. So today we're going to look at your responses of what focus you would like in your yoga practice. So breath work, rest and relaxation, fitness and strength, or mind-body awareness. And go ahead and select the one that you're looking for in your practice, and I'll kind of tailor today's practice to what you're looking for in our community. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to fill out the poll, and then we're going to look at what everyone voted for today. How are you all doing in the Zoom room over here? I'm having to scroll back and forth between Facebook Live and Zoom, so this is kind of cool. I feel like super famous, like paparazzi right now. Okay, good. I see lots of thumbs up happening in Zoom, so good. Can we go ahead and share, stop the poll and share those results? So on Zoom, we were coming in with overwhelming votes for mind-body awareness today, one for fitness and strength. And let's see, on Zoom, so I see the CF awareness poll right now. Can we share the CF, or the yoga poll results?
It looks like that's the only poll that's allowing me to.
Okay. Let's see, view poll result.
Yeah, just those 5 question.
Okay. There was another poll for specifically about yoga in the Zoom meeting, but we'll just go ahead and we'll dive in. The theme that I'm thinking of for intention today, both with the physical and the mental, is open hearts. And that fits right in with kind of some of the poll answers that we got that were seeking mind-body awareness. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable place to start our practice. I'm going to show you some of the props that you might want to have handy. So if you have something sturdy like a yoga block, this is a great way to bring the floor up in certain postures. We use this a lot in our CF Yogi classes so that we can have some different options and modifications. Water bottle, because it's important to stay hydrated. And you might want to have either a yoga strap, or if you don't have a strap, just something sturdy that you can hold in your hands and maybe pull a little bit. So maybe that's going to be a scarf or a sock or a towel, just something that you feel like you can give a little bit of leverage to. And that's just going to be a little extra assistance with some of our heart openers today. So I'm going to grab a block and find a comfortable seated position on the mat.
I also shared a Spotify link if anyone would like music.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. So one of the features that we have in our studio is that when you're in a physical yoga studio, you know, the teacher goes to a lot of lengths to create that environment where you can feel comfortable and relax, and music is an element of that. However, with the video conference platform, we can't broadcast music into the video because it conflicts with the speech audio, and it just doesn't really work. So what we do is we take a Spotify playlist, and our teacher can come up with their own playlist that they want to use for class, and then just share that over in the chat on Zoom so that our students can listen to some music if they want to kind of create that studio vibe in their own space. So thank you, Chelsea, for sharing that. And let's just find a comfortable seated posture. So for me, I like to sit up on a block. It just helps me find a little bit more ease through the hips. And we always start our practice with pranayama, with our breath practice, to just bring our attention into the moment, into our body and the breath. So finding a comfortable place where we feel like we can do that. Maybe it's going to be cross-legged, maybe with the legs out in front of you. And just bringing our awareness into the moment. Maybe closing the eyes would help. And lifting the head, reaching the crown of the head to the sky, elongating the spine, feeling taller and taller. And just kind of sigh it out. On our inhale, lifting the crown of the head to the sky. On our exhale, feeling the shoulders melt down away from the ears. And just starting to notice our breath. Noticing what's happening in our body and our breath today. Noticing if we're breathing through the nose or the mouth without judgment. Noticing where our chest is moving up and down as we breathe. Is it staying still? Is our belly moving in and out? Where are we just naturally feeling that breath today? And what are the sounds that we hear as we breathe? Is it clear? Do we have some little mucusy crackles? Can we flare our nostrils and bring that air in through the sinuses? On our exhale, can we create a little whisper breath on the back of the throat? And with cystic fibrosis, we're doing breathing treatments and airway clearance every single day that involves removing that mucus from our lungs, coughing it out multiple times a day or even all day. And it's just such a release and nice counterpoint to that effort to just breathe without having to worry about getting it all out, all those little mucus plugs, getting them out of your body, just being in your body. And starting to gently deepen the breath. Let's take a hand to the belly and just notice whether it's moving in and out when we breathe. Is it staying still? On our next inhale, let's intentionally release the belly, letting it really relax. Exhaling, re-engaging the belly, coming back toward the spine as the belly button moves in. Inhaling, releasing the belly. Exhaling, bringing the belly back in. And this is the root of our belly breath. And we can really start to deepen the breath into those low lobes of the lungs. Another place we can feel the breath move is up in the chest. So let's take that other hand to the chest. Let's connect these two breaths. Let's inhale into the belly and then into the chest, feeling it lift. Exhaling, both releasing down. Inhaling into the belly and the chest, and letting it go. Keeping that same pattern of breath at your own pace. And working toward elongating that moment in between the inhale and exhale without holding the breath, just maximizing that available air in the lungs. Two more breaths at your own pace. And returning to a natural, even breath. Letting it still be nice and deep. Letting each breath become a little fuller and deeper than the last. And noticing what's happening in our mind as we breathe. Do we have any distracting thoughts that are coming into our head? Any to-do list? Self-consciousness? Remembering that we are just being in our own bodies, whatever they are today. On our inhale, lifting the shoulders up toward the ears, starting to add some motion to the breath. Exhaling, rolling them down. Inhaling, rolling them up. Exhaling them down. Letting them roll gently, maybe a little bit wider breath to breath. There's so much tension that we store in our shoulders and our neck that this is a chance to let it go. Especially if you've been coughing all day, doing airway clearance, opening up the chest can feel really good. So that's where our intention of heart opening is coming from today. And meeting with the shoulders down away from the ears. Inhaling, circle sweeping the hands up toward the sky, reaching up tall. Letting those hands come together. And then exhaling through heart center back to the sides. Inhaling, circle sweeping up. Exhaling through heart center. Flowing with your breath at your own pace. Maybe it's going to be one breath to one motion. Maybe it's going to be two breaths to one motion if you're a little shorter of breath. Just finding a flow and a pace that fits you and your body today. And noticing that tactile sensation when the hands come together. Noticing the fingers stretching wide as they reach towards the corners of the room. meeting with our hands at heart center. Pausing for a moment, setting an intention for our practice today. Choosing just one simple thing to focus on in our practice. And I'd like to, of course, offer the suggestion of open hearts for our class today. And letting go of expectation, letting go of judgment, letting go of competition as we explore our own unique practice on our mat today, whether we have CF or not. Inhaling, circle sweeping the hands up toward the sky, elongating the crown of the head. Exhaling, twisting at the waist, bringing the hands down as we open the chest to the side of the room. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling opposite side. Inhaling to center. Continuing our pattern at our own pace. Maybe you'd like to change that pattern of your breath, but noticing that it can help as we exhale into that twist. Bringing our awareness into that moment, into the sensations that we feel as we twist. Noticing our sits bones still nice and supported underneath us. Once more to each side. Meeting with the arms up toward the sky and lowering one arm down to the mat. Let's reach that hand up high, feeling the side body start to open up. A little bit more length. And then realigning, inhaling the hand up. Exhaling the opposite hand down and reaching that opposite hand to the sky. Starting to feel some stretch in the side of the body and underneath the shoulder blade. And realigning, inhaling back up. Exhaling the other hand down. Maybe this time we'd like to take a side bend, exhaling into a bend. Inhaling, realigning. Exhaling, sweeping down. Inhaling the opposite side up. Exhale, bending. Inhale, lifting up. Flowing through that pattern, following your own breath as your guide. And noticing what we're starting to feel as those intercostals, the muscles in between the ribs, are starting to open up through the side body. Maybe we're stretching out the latissimus dorsi, which is that big wing-shaped muscle that goes from our spine out to our shoulder. Once more on each side. And meeting back in the center. Rolling those shoulders down. If you need to take a break to cough, go ahead and do it. That's the whole point. We're getting things moving. On our inhale, circle sweeping up, both hands up. Exhaling, bringing the hands together behind us. Maybe we'll interlace the fingers, or maybe we'll leave some space like we're holding onto a big beach ball. Just starting to let those shoulder blades practice what it's like to squeeze together. And then starting to open up the chest, engaging the belly as we ever so gently tilt the head back, starting to find our first heart opener of the day. Feeling that sensation of the air coming into the front side of the body. And releasing the hands, coming back to neutral, taking the hands to the knees, exhaling, scooping the belly in. Inhaling back to neutral and opening up. Exhaling, coming back, tucking the chin toward the chest. Moving at your own pace. Inhaling, heart opening. Exhaling, scooping inward. Flowing at your own pace. 2 more breaths. And meeting back in the center. And let's go ahead and find a position on all fours. So we'll move the block aside if you've been seated on that. And finding a nice tabletop posture where we're in a secure stacked joint position. So our wrists are underneath our shoulders, our knees are underneath our hips. And we're using some nice wide hands like starfish so we can really put that fleshy part of the palm down and then bringing the pads of the fingers down too. So it kind of opens the hand up like a suction cup. If you're caring for wrists or have some arthritis, another alternative is fists for wrists. We can make a fist and just press that fist down into the mat for a little bit more stability through the wrists. And then we'll find our cat and cow flow. Exhaling, scooping the belly in, feeling the shoulder blades slide apart, tailbone turning down. Inhaling, shining that heart center forward as the tailbone rises. Exhaling to our cat. Inhaling to our cow. Flowing at your own pace. Actively pressing down into the hands and the fingers. Enjoying that sensation of air rushing into the lungs when we open up to that cow. Two more breaths. And meeting back in our neutral tabletop position. We'll work a little bit on our core strength, which is really crucial to our digestive health and also long-term to prevent urinary incontinence. We're working on our Mula Bandha, which is a really low root lock that starts from the pelvic floor. So we'll see if we can isolate those muscles right at the very base of the pelvis, kind of like we're stopping the flow of urine. And then see if we can lift the belly in, just finding that in our tabletop. And let's extend that right leg back, pressing into the heels so we can find some stretch down the back of the leg. Feeling the hamstring stretch out. And then as you'd like to start working on your balance and core strength, floating that foot off of the mat like we're going to put a footprint on the back wall, reaching that heel back. Feeling that core engaged, that sling of muscle, that transverse abdominal, bringing the belly up and in. Next option, you can float that opposite hand up, reaching it forward like we're going to shake someone's hand, and reaching nice and long across the body, fingertip to heel. Pressing down into that hand that's supporting us so the shoulder comes down away from the ear. See if we can hold this steady for a few breaths. And setting it down. Opposite side, pressing back into those left toes, stretching out the back of that left leg, engaging all the way up into the core. As you're ready, floating the toes off of the mat with that footprint on the back wall. And the opposite hand coming forward, if you're ready. Pressing down into that supporting hand, feeling how the shoulder lowers away from the ear. Holding steady. And setting it down. Coming back to a child's pose, we can make some room, opening up the knees so that the belly can breathe. We can let the forehead rest on a mat, or we can bring the forehead to the backs of the hands or stacked fists if it doesn't want to reach all the way down to the mat. And as we're here in a child's pose, this is an opportunity for us to breathe into the space that we're creating along the back side of the body. So you can feel how we can kind of send that breath to the space between our hips and our ribs. And walk the hands over to the right side of the mat, letting those left fingers walk a little further out for a side stretch. Sending that breath into the space we're creating the side of the body. And walking hands back to center, over to the opposite side, letting those right fingers walk out. Lifting through that side of the body, opening it up, sending the breath there. And coming back to center. Inhaling up, back to all fours. And we'll just briefly visit our downward facing dog, making those nice wide starfish hands, tucking the toes, lifting the hips, coming to our downward facing dog, which is an upside down V shape in the body. So as we press into the hands, we're feeling the shoulders slide down away from the ears and the sits bones lifting high to the sky. So don't worry about how close your heels are getting to the mat. We're thinking more about having a neutral spine, maybe just pedaling those heels one at a time to start to lengthen the hamstrings. Just staying in our downward facing dog for a few breaths. And then looking up toward the hands, walking up to forward fold. Keeping a deep bend in the knees so the belly can rest on the upper thighs, the hips are sitting back. Inhaling halfway up to monkey. Reaching the crown of the head to the front of the room, lifting the hips up and back. Taking our hands to the upper thighs, let's press those hips back, feeling some release on the low back. And bending the knees, sitting the hips back. Inhaling, circle sweeping all the way up toward the sky. Exhaling, hands through heart center to mountain pose. And taking a water break if you need it, now that we're standing up. And I'd like to talk a little bit about inversions. So one of the issues that can happen with cystic fibrosis is acid reflux, particularly silent acid reflux, which is one of those things that can lead to lung infections. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that fluid that's in your lungs, or that's in your stomach from the food that you eat, there can be bacteria in that. If that makes its way up through the esophagus, it can actually lead to lung infections, which we want to prevent. So if you have any concerns about acid reflux, using inversions really mindfully. So that's why I typically don't stay in them very long, just out of that concern. But I also want to say that, it's a totally personal choice. I know yogis who do inversions and absolutely love them and haven't had any of those issues, or they feel like it's worth the risk. So I'm going to show some options that you can do to avoid those inversions. So I'm going to take a block and bring it to the top of the mat. And we'll roll our shoulders back and down, finding our mountain pose. Inhaling, circle sweeping up. And exhaling, coming halfway down, finding monkey pose, taking our hands to the block. Now, if you don't have those concerns about inversions, you can find our forward fold. Maybe stay here in our forward fold for a few breaths if that feels good to you. But if you have that concern about inversions, staying here in our monkey, and we can still get some release on the low back by lifting those sits bones. It's just kind of a different kind of sensation here in our monkey. And let's all meet in this monkey pose. If you don't have a block, just find something sturdy like a water bottle or a footstool. And we'll bend the left knee, opening up to the right side of the body, just taking the hand to the hip. Exhaling back to center. Inhaling up to the side. Exhaling to center. Flowing through that twist. Twists are really beneficial for digestion. So I like to use a lot of these in my own yoga practice, as digestion is one of the things that is really common as a CF issue. And meeting back in the center. Sitting back like we're going to sit into a chair that's a little too far behind us. Inhaling, circle sweeping up. Then finding our chair pose. Sitting our hips back, bringing our hands to heart center. So we want to make sure that our weight is in our heels so our toes can wiggle away from the mat. So we're starting to open up the heart center a little bit in our chair. Inhaling up. And we'll move through a chair flow as we start to build some heat up in the body, keeping in touch with the fact that the breath is our guide. Inhaling up. Exhaling, swan diving, forward fold just for a moment. Inhaling to monkey. Exhaling, forward fold. Bending the knees, sitting the hips back. Inhaling, circle sweeping up to mountain. Exhaling back to our chair. Starting that cycle over. Inhaling up. Exhaling, swan diving, forward fold. Inhaling to monkey. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, circle sweeping up. Exhaling back. Now if you find that that pace of breath just doesn't work for you, go ahead and just make it work for your body, whatever pace, whatever cycles of breath you need. And if you need to sit down, if you need to take a break, that's totally okay. We're building up our heat in our body with this flow so that we can do some deeper stretching, which always works just a little bit better when we have our circulation going, feeling a little bit warmer. Let's do one more cycle. We'll meet in our chair pose. Meeting in our chair. Seeing if we can stay here for a few breaths. Feeling nice and strong, powerful through the feet. Crown of the head lifted high. And inhaling back to our mountain. All right, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel pretty warm. Let's do a few sun salutation breakdowns. Inhaling, circle sweeping up. Exhaling, swan diving, forward fold. And bringing that right leg back so that the knee can come down to the mat. And we have lots of options in our lunge. So a forward lunge might feel good if you really like that release through the hips today. Or maybe you prefer the hamstring stretch. You want to tuck the toes and press that heel to the back of the room in kind of a runner's lunge. Maybe you prefer a kneeling version, but working on our core so we can lift up, bringing the hands up toward the sky, or even in cactus arms where they're making 90-degree bends in the elbows. So many variations to our lunge based on what we want to feel today. Cartwheeling our hands down, stepping back to our tabletop, and then sinking the hips to child's pose. Inhaling back to our tabletop. Let's take that right foot to the front. Maybe scoot that left knee back a little bit if we want to feel some opening through the hips. Maybe tucking the toes if we want that hamstring stretch. Maybe bringing the knee down and lifting up the arms toward the sky. Working on our core strength. Your choice. And cartwheeling hands down, stepping up to forward fold. Inhaling to monkey. Exhaling, sitting the hips back. Inhaling, circle sweeping to mountain. Inhaling, circle sweeping up. Exhaling, forward fold. Stepping that left foot back. We'll find another lunge, This time we'll move to a crescent lunge variation for working on our heart openers. So let's find that kneeling position. If you'd like, you can take a block or something beside you if you feel like you need that little bit of stability, that little bit of support. Taking a moment to reconnect with your breath. And then floating the hands up toward the sky. And then floating the hands behind us. Again, it's an opportunity to interlace the fingers if that feels good, or just create that space between the hands. And opening up the chest toward the sky. Option if you want to work on balance at the same time, tucking the toes, floating the knee off the mat for a high crescent lunge. Setting it down, cartwheeling the hands down, coming to tabletop, and back to our child's pose. And back up to tabletop. Let's find that crescent lunge on the opposite side. Coming up first with our arms toward the sky. Taking our hands behind us, maybe interlacing the fingers or opening up the chest. Option to tuck the toes, floating the knee off the mat, reaching that heel to the back of the room to create some stability through that back leg. And cartwheeling the hands down, stepping up to our forward fold. Inhaling to monkey. Exhaling, sitting the hips back. Inhaling, circle sweeping all the way up. And exhaling down. All right, another good opportunity for a water break. We're going to slow things down a little bit now that we've got some nice heat built up in our bodies. All right, inhale, circle sweeping up. Exhaling, swan diving, forward fold. And stepping down to hands and knees. And down to our seat, bringing our feet to the front of the mat. And just taking a moment here to find a seated staff pose, which is one of those that's deceptively challenging because our psoas muscle is working all the time to hold us, to walk our legs around the world. And just the chance to let that engage, especially if you've been sitting a lot, can be really a little bit challenging. So go ahead and place the hands behind you a little bit. Inhale the crown of the head up to the sky. And flexing the feet like we're going to put some footprints on that front wall. Letting the shoulders come down. Starting to feel the chest open up a little bit at a time. And our heart opening seated staff pose. And then coming back to neutral. Now, if we're avoiding inversions today because of that acid reflux issue, a seated forward fold can be a really good opportunity to get that same benefit as that forward fold when you're standing, only it doesn't have that same threat of the acid reflux issue. So we'll come into a seated fold using a sinking style breath. So inhale, lifting the crown of the head up to the sky. Exhale, hinging forward at the hips, reaching that heart center forward. Repeating that with each breath. So inhaling, lifting tall. Exhaling, hinging forward. And just letting the hands walk down the legs. They're not doing any pulling. Just using our breath as our guide as we sink into the stretch. And when you find an edge where you'd like to stay for a while, just exploring that edge of comfort. So we're finding the space that's between easy and ouch. We want just that little bit of challenge, slightly outside of our comfort zone, but we don't want to push ourselves too far. After a few breaths, you might notice that you kind of want to try exploring a little bit further. Go ahead and explore some more of those sinking style breaths. And then if you get to the point where it feels natural, we can let the chin come down toward the chest, and that's going to stretch out the whole back side of the body. So you might start to feel the stretch in the hamstrings or the glutes or the neck, anywhere alongside the back of the body. When you're ready to come out of it, just walking the hands back in, coming out of it just like you got into it, unhinging, walking the hands back in. And for a counter posture, this is one of my personal favorites, is an inclined plank. As we lower our shoulders down, pressing into the hands, pointing the toes, and gradually starting to float the hips off of the mat, opening up the chest. Just hold it as long as you're comfortable. Don't worry about how high you're lifting. And pressing, coming back down onto our seat. Let's find a comfortable seated position. So maybe that's going to be with the legs out. Maybe it's going to be with them in kind of a crisscross applesauce. Let's take that strap or that long, sturdy item, and we'll see if we can do some chest openers with the assistance of the strap. So we'll start by putting the strap in our right hand and letting the strap kind of dangle behind us, grabbing it with our left. And then bending that top elbow as we walk the bottom hand up. And the object here isn't to get our hands to touch, it's just to create that little bit of tension so that we can find some stretch through the shoulders. Listening to the breath. We can try gently pulling the strap apart with our hands, creating a little bit of tension. After about 3 breaths, let that go, seeing if we can walk our hands any closer. When you're ready, releasing, taking the strap in the opposite hand, taking the bottom hand to the bottom end, bending that top elbow, starting to walk that bottom hand up. Just feeling how this feels in the body for a few breaths. Again, option to create a little bit of tension through that strap by pulling the hands apart. And then releasing that tension, seeing if the hands will walk any closer together. And releasing the strap. Let's find a counter posture for the arms with our eagle arms. So taking our hands out to the side, sweeping the arms forward, bringing the right arm underneath the left, and then letting the backs of the hands come together. Maybe we'll even be able to wrap the wrists, bringing the palms together. Sitting up nice and tall, and then lifting the elbows up away from the body. You start to feel some stretch across the upper back, the shoulders. A lot of those coughing assistance muscles getting a chance to stretch out. And for a little different sensation, we can bring those shoulders down away from the ears so that the arms come closer to the chest. When you're ready, unwinding the arms, bringing them back. Interlacing fingers or grabbing that strap, opening up the chest. And then releasing, finding our eagle arms on the other side, sweeping the arms out, bringing them forward, left arm underneath the right this time. Back to the hands can touch or hands can wind around each other. Lifting the elbows up away from the body. Bringing those shoulders down. Listening to that sound of the breath, that whisper on the back of the throat. And unwinding the arms. Getting one more heart opener, interlacing fingers or taking hold of the strap, opening up the chest. And coming back to neutral spine, releasing the hands. And stretching our legs out. Making a little support, taking our hands behind the thighs, lifting the crown of the head tall to the sky, and then one vertebrae at a time lowering down to the mat, bringing knees to chest and a hug. Taking one hand to each knee, opening them up, bringing them back together, moving the knees through some circles. Exhaling when we bring those knees in. Meeting with the knees to the chest. Placing the soles of the feet on the mat with the knees bent. Inhaling the hips up toward the sky. Finding a nice stretch for those hip flexor muscles. Release on the low back. Option if you prefer a gentle version, taking the block, placing it underneath the hips, letting them rest on that. Just finding a restorative version where we don't have to be actively lifting. And watching the belly rise and fall with the breath. Feeling that hollowing out of the belly as it sinks down toward the block. And lifting the hips back up, moving the block out, setting the hips down on the mat. And bringing our knees in for a hug. Stretching the left leg down to the mat while we bring that right knee in. And then shifting the hips over to the right, taking the hand to the outside of that knee, and then guiding it across the body into a twist. Working on keeping our shoulders down against the mat as the hand reaches out to the right. You can even let the gaze turn over that outstretched hand. Finding a nice release in our twist. And unwinding, coming back to center, realigning our knees with a hug. This time let's roll the knees together in a big circle, massaging the sacrum, the low back against the mat. And the opposite direction. And lowering the right leg down to the mat. Shifting the hips to the left. And taking the hand to the outside of the knee so we can guide it across the body into our twist on the opposite side. Letting that left hand stretch out. The gaze can turn over that left hand. And when you're ready, unwinding, coming back to center. And moving your body through any final postures or motions that you feel you need to complete your yoga practice. Maybe there's something else that you feel needs to be stretched out a little bit more. Maybe you'd like to try a gentle supported inversion, sliding that block under the hips and then floating the feet to the sky. Maybe you'd like to try a happy baby pose. No block for this one. Just taking our peace fingers to our big toes, floating the soles of the feet toward the sky, bending the knees so they can come in toward the underarms. Maybe even opening them up, rocking back and forth for happy baby. When you're ready, finding a place where we can let go of the work that we've done. Maybe stretched out on a mat, or maybe for you, if you've got some congestion today, it feels better to have the head and chest elevated against a pillow. Even seated in a chair if that feels best. And moving into our Shavasana, our final relaxation. Finding some release for all of the work that we've done. We can let the ankles gently wiggle. Feeling the calves engage and release. Letting the muscles of the upper thighs lift up the kneecaps and then release, let them go. Letting the glutes engage, lifting the hips just a little bit higher. And then releasing it down. Feeling the hands open and close. Feeling the shoulders come down away from the ears. We can lift up the chest and tuck those shoulders down. Feeling the tongue release from the roof of the mouth as the jaw falls open. Feeling the eyes fall heavy in the sockets as expression releases from the face. Tension melts away from between the eyebrows and the forehead, the temples, the scalp. On our exhale, feeling that whisper breath on the back of the throat. So we feel all of the internal organs, the lungs, the belly melting down into the mat as we breathe out. Simply existing in the moment with our breath that is always there for us. Simply waiting for us to notice it. Bringing our attention back into the room. Bringing small motions back into the body, wiggling fingers and toes. And rolling the head side to side. Reaching the arms overhead in an east to west stretch. And gathering our knees in a hug. And in your own time, rolling onto one side. Taking a moment in fetal posture. And using arm strength to push back up to seated. Inhaling, circle sweeping the hands up. Exhaling, bringing the hands to heart center. And pausing for a moment in gratitude for our bodies and for what they do for us today, on and off the mat. Thank you for inviting me to be your yoga guide this morning. Thank you for attending our open house as we show you everything that we've been doing and learning. And remembering the word namaste means the light in me sees the light in you. My spirit acknowledges your spirit. Namaste. Thank you everyone for joining our class today. I'll be here available to answer questions for about 15 more minutes. Whether you're on Zoom or on Facebook Live, we're going to go and we're going to see if there's any questions that have been left in the chat for us. And we would love to encourage you also to go and if you enjoyed your practice today, if you want to help more classes become available for people with cystic fibrosis, then please follow our link to our Give Big fundraiser. It's a one-day fundraiser just for today to be able to create some more classes, bring on some more instructors, because we have such a diverse community of need in the cystic fibrosis world. So I'll be coming up to answer some questions. I would love to hear what you thought about our practice today. If you're on Zoom, you're welcome to unmute your microphone if there's something that you would like to contribute to the conversation, if you have questions that you want to ask.
Katie, it's Nicole. I really liked how you said in the very beginning, you were talking about like your mucus and you were like, don't worry about,
Oh gosh. I heard her and she had a question and then it looks like she left. So hopefully we'll get Nicole back. I'm going to see if I can find the Facebook Live feed, see if I can find some questions there. Chelsea, have you looked over in the chat or did anyone put any questions in there?
There's none in the chat right now.
Okay.
But I put up the Give Big link. So like you were saying, if anyone would like to donate to obviously keep all this going, that link is in the chat.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I just wanted to give you a little bit kind of a behind the scenes of what is going on at CF Yogi. So we kicked things off with the funding that we received from our impact grant from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. That was a $10,000 grant. that funds our program of one weekly class for 1 year. So 52 classes total. And during that program, each month we have a different theme and a different instructor. So I've been doing, I've taught 2 sessions now. I did one in January for multi-level vinyasa flow. In April, I did one called Alignment April, where we were breaking down a bit more of the poses and the body alignment and the benefits of those poses. And kids yoga is happening right now. Myra Jaffaloni is leading that one. So with the Impact Grant, we have this, solid foundation of this first year of these weekly classes. But that said, we have had over 500 households sign up for our program since we started January 1st, which is just mind-blowing. I mean, I was thinking we were going to have maybe 100 or 2 people sign up for the entire year. So it really just completely blew our expectations out of the water as we realized just how appealing this was to the CF community and how people are understanding what yoga can really do for them in their proactive care for themselves. And also it's just a self-empowering thing that you can do when there's so much about CF that you can't control. Like, this is something that you can control right here on your mat. And so we've had a lot of requests from all of our students who've registered that they want more classes. They want classes more often, multiple times a week. They want the recordings to be available longer. And they also want, different styles of yoga happening at the same time, because they don't necessarily want to wait for the next kids yoga month because their kid just loves it and they want to do it all the time. So we want to be able to have multiple classes happening in the same week so that people can find the class that's appropriate for them. So that's where Give Big comes in. We are asking our community to help fund these additional classes. We have teachers waiting in the wings who are ready and eager to teach more. And it's just a matter of getting the funding. We have some other donors kind of waiting in the wings who also want to contribute but are just kind of seeing what happens with our community. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to bring you some exciting news in the next few weeks. But today is kind of the kickstart. We're going to see what we can really achieve as a community. So go ahead, find that Give Big link. We would love to have some donors today. And the benchmark for what we're fundraising for is that it takes $1,000 to do one weekly class for a month. So for every $1,000 that we bring in, we can do another weekly class for a month. So that's just kind of the scale that we're looking at. We got $10,000 from the CF Impact Grant. That's going to cover the 1 year. Realistically, honestly, that doesn't actually cover all of the program costs that we have. Because we just wanted the kickstart and that helped us get our kind of startup funds, got us the equipment that we needed, but it does cost more than that to actually run the program for a whole year. So that's where we're kind of hoping to make up some of the difference from that too. So I'm going to pop down to the Facebook Live. This is so crazy. 2 screens. All right, so I don't see any questions down in the Facebook Live either. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give like a last call for if there's anything that you want to say or contribute. I don't know if Nicole is back in the room, but we kind of lost you for a bit. Oh, okay. Yes, I see your note about airway clearance and breathing and just the relationship that yoga has to all of that. It's just, it's the acknowledging what's happening in your body without judgment, because we're always like trying to get those high lung function results on our clinic tests, and we work so hard at clearing everything out. And yoga is a chance to just be and just be with the breath. And that's one of the great things about CF Yogi is that we can, if we have to cough, we're in the privacy of our own homes. We don't have to feel self-conscious of being in a gym or a yoga studio where you're going to get the weird looks. And even if your microphone is on and you're coughing, like, people totally get that here and aren't going to be holding that against you in any way. So, so I think that's about it. We're going to go ahead and sign off, but we still have more open house coming today. Myra is going to be doing her kids yoga here on Facebook Live this afternoon. I'm hoping to also kind of share some little cheerleading from our Give Big campaign along the day as the day goes on. And just so excited to celebrate everything that we're doing with you here. CF Awareness Month is only just beginning. This is all month long for May. So we're going to still be posting on our social media about other ways that yoga can help with people with cystic fibrosis on our blog and elsewhere throughout the month. So thank you everyone for joining today. My heart is so warm to see all of you here. Feel free to pop over and donate on our Give Big page, or if you have any other questions about our program, send us an email at hello@cfyogi.org or shoot us a message on our Facebook page. So much love to you all. Thanks for opening your hearts, your houses to us today, and we will see you soon. Okay, bye.